The Chaitanya Bhagavata had predicted that the name of Lord Chaitanya would one day be known in every town and village. This was Abhay's mission, which he started in India. He started writing back to God in magazines in 1944, although since he had been unable to print the magazine. But even without the means to publish, Abhay continued writing. Over the past 2 years, he had accumulated hundreds of manuscript pages. He wrote in notebooks and on newspapers, and then typed the numbered manuscript pages. He also preached Lord Chaitanya's message through letters, writing to many leaders in the government, and to respectable acquaintances. But then the worst thing happened. The manuscript was stolen. It was the only copy. Abhay was baffled. So much work had been undone. Abhay began his first Bengali article in Amrita Bazar Patrika and regularly wrote in Gaudiya Patrika. During 1950 to 1951, he continued his letter writing. He wrote to the World Pacifist Committee, the President of India, and the Minister of Education. He wrote to the Indian Congress for Cultural Freedom. He also corresponded with Daniel Bailey, who worked in the American Reporter, a magazine published by the American Embassy in New Delhi. Abhay even wrote to the Ford Foundation in Detroit, but got no success. Abhay also tried to preach hard in Jhansi through the League of Devotees, but it did not turn out as he had expected. In Allahabad, Abhay managed to save enough money to revive the printing of Back to Godhead, and in February 1952, the first issue in 8 years had appeared. As before, he had to do everything himself, all the writing, typing, editing, meeting with the printer, and finally distributing the copies by hand, as well as mailing them to respectable leaders throughout India. In February of 1956, New Delhi, Abhay was trying to print Back to Godhead. In winter's discomfort, he walked through the early morning streets of Delhi to visit the printer, to read the latest proofs. By walking, he saved money. Only when he was delivering paper, he would rent a rickshaw. He had no chadar, only a lightweight cotton jacket, and he wore rubber shoes. He also wore a cotton hat that covered his ears. He did not eat breakfast. His financial condition was very, very weak. Sometimes the printing would be difficult because he was not able to arrange enough money for the paper. After picking up the copies from the printer, Abhay would walk around the city, selling them to anyone he could find. He would take a seat at a tea stand, and when someone sat beside him, Abhay would ask them to take a copy of Back to Godhead. He also went to the homes and offices of people who wanted to see him by either donating or they had agreed to see him. And he sought out new contacts, sometimes on recommendation or sometimes by going uninvited wherever he could find a potential reader. One day, while delivering Back to Godhead to various addresses in the city, Abhay suddenly began reeling, half unconscious, overcome by the heat. At that moment, an acquaintance took Abhay to a doctor. The doctor diagnosed him as a victim of heat stroke and ordered him to rest. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said that if only one soul would be turned into a pure devotee, his mission would be successful. Yet, sometimes Abhay was overwhelmed when he thought how small he was, how much work it had to be done on behalf of Krishna, and how difficult it was to even convince one conditioned soul.
As a dependent servant, constantly meditating on the desires of his transcendental master and seeking his guidance, Bhaktivedanta Swami felt his spiritual master's reciprocal blessings, manifesting as an inspiration to write books, to spread devotional science. Before the break of first light, Prabhupada would sit with his manuscripts and write, in an attempt to publish the BTG magazine, as he felt gratitude to Krishna for providing a place in Vrindavan to translate and preach. With a conviction to print the BTG magazine, Prabhupada travelled to Delhi. Street by street he went with a bundle of printed magazines, not a home to stay, nor any facilities. Struck by poverty, yet dedication in spreading Krishna's glories. Despite all the calamities, Prabhupada remained undeterred, with a firm faith in his Guru's words. For even if only one soul could be turned into a pure devotee, the preaching mission would become a success for all certainty.